Baar Dau. A long time ago, Sheogorath grew bored, which is a very dangerous thing to happen to a Daedric prince of madness. He took a mighty rock from the void that surrounds us and flung it far toward Nirn. And so it flew, and straight down it came to the most beautiful island in all of Nirn. It fell toward Vvardenfell. Many wept and wailed as it approached. The Ashlanders prayed to Azura, who did nothing. Men and Mer prayed to the Divines, who did nothing. But the Dunmer, we prayed to the three, to our ever-glorious living gods. And Vivec heard our prayers. He raised his hand, calm and serene, glowing in his holy light. And the fall of the celestial rock became slower and slower still. And all who wept and wailed stopped, for Baar Dau had finally come to its resting place. Safely there it hung in the air, above the spot where Vivec City would one day be built. That was the tale of Baar Dau, the celestial rock which hovered above Vivec City in southern Vvardenfell during the Third Era. Vivec's palace had existed for millennia before the rest of the city, attracting pilgrims to visit the poet, including Baar Dau. The display of Baar Dau as a wonder of the city inspired even more pilgrims to come visit. Although the rock looks quite majestic hovering sedately above the city, local legend maintains that, should the populace cease to worship Vivec, the moonlit will complete its fall and raise the city. Baar Dau's original position in the Second Era was more distant from the city. In the year 2E 582, the Daedric prince, Clavicus Vile, and his minions steal the staff Sunara, a tool created by the Dunmer god Sotha Sil. The staff ends up in the hands of the Ashlander Canún Chodala, who aspired to the title of Nerevarin. Chodala's use of the staff drains away the power of Vivec, which weakens the warrior poet's hold over the Baar Dau and endangers all of Vvardenfell. Baar Dau plunged dramatically towards the city, where it remained aloft only tenuously, showering Vivec City with burning fragments. Fortunately, the champion of Azura, a clockwork mage, and an outlander come to Vivec's aid. Chodala is discredited and defeated. Clavicus Vile's plot is thwarted, and Vivec's power is restored. After Vivec regained his power, he kept Baar Dau in its new position, just above the high fane of the Temple Canton. Later, Baar Dau was hollowed out by the Tribunal Temple and became the Ministry of Truth, where the temple would imprison dissident priests and attempt to reform them. The high-security prison was accessible only through levitation. Early in the Fourth Era, after the disappearance of Vivec, the magic keeping Baar Dau afloat began to weaken. Two Dunmer, Sul and Vuhan, created an ingenium, a soul-powered device which supported the rock. Hundreds of captured souls were needed to run the machine, but eventually living people were used. Only the people with the strongest souls were sacrificed. Ilzeven, Sul's love, was sacrificed by Vuhan, and the ingenium was destroyed when Sul attempted to rescue her. In 4E5, without anything holding it up, Baar Dau resumed its long-delayed fall, returning to the momentum it had before being halted. This obliterated the city of Vivec, leaving a crater which would become Scathing Bay. In turn, the impact created tsunamis which ravaged mainland Morrowind and caused Red Mountain to erupt, devastating Vvardenfell. The disaster of the Red Year effectively ended the ascendancy of the Tribunal Temple and the mainstream worship of the Tribunal as gods.
Wow, what a backstory. Look at this. Baar Dau. So, definitely when I first visited Vivec City, looking at the architecture of Vivec City and looking at Baar Dau hanging right there at the top, it just blew my mind. It was surely a gaming highlight for me. There's a lot of wonder, at the same time there's a lot of trepidation too, because you never know when it's going to fall down, right? And it's dependent on Vivec. So, as long as Vivec is there, this guy is cool, but as long as once Vivec leaves, this guy is definitely going to crash down. That's what happened. There are multiple stories on how Baar Dau appeared. So one is what we just heard, that it was flung to the heavens by the mad god Sheogorath. That's one story. Another story which says that Dunmeri folktale also claims that Baar Dau originated as a wayward Magna Gay, a divine being in Una. And that's another story. Apparently there's an orcish tale which says Baar Dau is not the dung of Vivec as the sermons claim, but a dung of Malakat. So is Malakat involved here? We don't know. Or is Sheogorath? So these are the origin stories. We don't know. Another cool thing about this is the second era story. So we know that in the third era the moon came crashing down and destroyed Vvardenfell. But in second era it came close to crashing down. So that story is all about how Vivec lost a bit of power. The Baar Dau was actually higher and then came down further down, and it rained a lot of fragments on Vivec City. But ultimately Vivec got back his power and kept it above the city. So that was cool. Apparently this story is documented in the Elder Scrolls Online games. So if you play Elder Scrolls Online, you'll actually meet Vivec there, and you'll actually see what happens in the story. Pretty cool. So I like this part, So there's actually something that happened in second era too. I mean, there was a disaster that could have happened in second era, but Vivec got back his power, and that ensured that Baar Dau remained there. And of course, in the fourth era, once Vivec was out of the picture, it had to come down, crashing down. But there was an effort done to actually keep it afloat. There's apparently an ingenium which is powered by living souls. That seemed very evil. If you see, hundreds of captured souls were needed to run the machine, and eventually living people were used. So that seems very evil, and it is not sustainable, right? Then you had the disaster of Red Deer, which talked about last week, and then that was the end of the tribunal temple and the tribunal gods. So fascinating story of magical piece of rock or a moon that inspired other people and ultimately had a say in the future of Vivec City. Ingenium was from Clavicus Vile, of course. Okay. Who else can think of such evil? Only Daedric Prince can think of such evil, right? Amazing lore, enjoyed it.